We are started. We are green. We are live and worldwide with 40,000 radio waves that won't behave. So this is Philberto versus Toro.
Philberto Hogan.
Philberto Hogan. I can hit. That's great. I can hit it every time. It's like, well, you're following on your phone. It's just like I can just hit it whenever I want. Philberto Hogan.
Philberto Hogan.
Whatever. Boom. folk forever, bro. All right, so
Someday I'm gonna regret making that video.
I'm gonna make you regret it. It's not. You shouldn't regret it, bro. I'm gonna make you regret that. No,
okay.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. All right, so hey everybody, this is LVO Toro, the Fancy Action Now, and this is Philberto 78 on the YouTubes, and we are going to do a video today after a few minutes preparation. After a few minutes, yeah. So the ever-loving blue-eyed thing is here. He's here to join us. He's gonna stand on the Mega Engine, which is also orange. And in the back you have R-Type playing off the shooter's memories on the Mega Engine. It is basically a Raspberry Pi that's designed to play all the PC Engine, TurboGrafx 16, Mega CD, and Sega CD. I really want to play Soulstar. Have you ever seen Soulstar?
I have not.
On the Sega CD? That's awesome. It is to me, it's one of the most hidden of hidden gems in gaming.
Is that related to Soul Dees?
Soul Feast, Soul Dees. Yeah, it's like, isn't it Soul? It's like Soul Feast on the Sega CD and Soul Dees in Japan. That was it. Thanks for reminding me of that. I was trying to think of that name the other day. Well, I'm like, what was that pack-in shooter with the Sega CD? And it's Soul Feast. Yeah, it's Soul Feast, which is Soul Dees in Japan. Why somebody did that, I don't know. But
maybe it means something different in different languages.
Yeah, yeah. That's like getting Gradius and Darius confused, you know. So, that's an easy one to forget. There's also other ones too, like Target Earth is actually like Mobile Suit Lanos in Japan.
That's right.
Yeah, there's a few of them that are weird like that. So the topic for today for the debate is, are we in the golden age of gaming? And I submitted to Philberto. I said, dude, we're in the golden age of gaming. We have peaked. It's not going to get much better than it is now. In fact, I personally think we're at that tipping point. We're at that apex of the maximum amount of exposure, the maximum amount of platforms, this huge neo-retro, movement. And you have so many consoles. Like, that's when I got this Mega Engine, I'm like, pretty much everything I've always wanted is being created in gaming right now. Your thoughts?
Yeah, we're pretty spoiled.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I mean, what a lot of people forget, I think, is that video games overtook movies, books, TV a long time ago. It isn't even a recent thing. Video games took over from, like, movies was number one for a long time, and we overtook movies like 10 or 15 years ago as far as total amount of participation, popularity, earnings, and usually comes down to earnings. So video games have surpassed movies in earnings long ago. So yeah, so video games, if you think, we're like dorks or, this is some kind of niche hobby, video games are the mainstream. Video games is the number one entertainment media on the planet.
Well, when it first started, video games were just kind of for dorks and nerds that were making them. But
or it's a novelty.
Everyone's involved in it. There's games made for every kind of person you can imagine. So it's very accessible for just anyone who wants to play them. Even my grandma plays like solitaire on her computer.
Or Words with Friends, or we got the Doom grandma that plays like Doom Online, and there's yeah. I mean, but you know what that is that you're penetrating into the culture ever deeper. You're getting deeper and deeper into the culture, And cell phones and tablets had a lot to do with that. So you can call it like casuals and all this other stuff, but even that, you have to come up with a word like casual gamer. That means that you've penetrated outside of the core, aficionados, and into mainstream folks. Those are the casual gamers. So my mother plays games. She's pushing 80. She plays games on her pad all day long. It's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
So you can't swing a dead cat. And the one thing that I've noticed is this evolution of non-mainstream consoles, right? So like we just had the Steam Deck, right? We just had the Steam Deck come out, and the Steam Deck is really behind the market when you consider like China and all those handheld emulators that they've had, some of which are like have a steel body to them. They're made as well as any other OEM equipment that's out there. They can run even like the latest one that I was looking at had a Saturn emulator on it, which was a little hanky. It wouldn't run everything, but I'm like, wow, a Saturn emulator, which has been like the kind of the grail, the one system nobody wanted to deal with as far as the emulation goes. But now we have a Saturn emulator out there, and it'll just get better and better and better. Yeah, and the Steam Deck actually looks like a Chinese handheld that came out very recently. It's so similar that I'm like, they're probably producing it for Steam. You know what I mean? It's probably a modified version of what they already created. Because, and I watched some reviews. I don't have a name. I don't have a serial number or anything for you. And I might, if I get the Steam Deck, or I was really looking at getting the Chinese precursor of that, because it got highly reviewed by a guy that's pretty much all he does is these Chinese handhelds. He gets a couple every week, and he just unboxes them and reviews them, and he gets very thorough, and he tests them as far as what they can run and what they can't run. And they've gotten so good now that suddenly Steam's coming out with one. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm like, Steam is following the Chinese market. When you think about that, that has me, as a marketing guy, I'm looking at who's leading the market. China's leading the market in these knockoff handhelds, and they were laughable for a time. They were goofy, and they were kind of a novelty, and they were kind of fun. But now they're serious. They're a serious extra platform. And when you think about that, you've got all the console players, you got the PC players, and with the Switch, you have the Switch, and then you have all of these Chinese handhelds that people have that are far more flexible than the Switch. They can emulate Switch, and they can emulate PS4, and they can emulate, all of these other systems, where it's like, wow. And I remember the one, you ever seen one of those videos where a guy takes a PS2 and he makes a handheld out of it? He's just, yeah. There's videos out there where a guy he'll take a fat PS2 and he'll get rid of all the schmarm, and he'll actually build his own portable PS2, and it's totally doable. It's totally cool. But now that's a reality, man. You can go get a really good Chinese emulator that's going to be just as good or close to your Steam Deck. But like I said, I recommend get the OEM, get the Steam Deck. If you can have your Steam account on a portable thing that can run, and again, the majority of my Steam library isn't exactly what you'd call cutting edge. I just have, I have a lot of regular stuff there.
Well, what is the difference between a Steam box and just like a normal PC? Is it just like a low-end PC or something?
Well, they did that. They did that for a time. I mean, they tried to come out with a Steam, like a tiered system of Steam decks that were supposedly proprietary, and it just wound up being this like weird. It didn't go very well, and it wasn't very popular. But the Steam Deck is just essentially a handheld that'll emulate Steam on it. That'll run the Steam app, and you'll have access to your library, and you can download the games to it, or play or just stream the game. You know, and the what I feel bad about, Philberto, is the only system that really didn't even do that well was Stadia. I mean, what happened to Stadia, bro? Where is it?
That is kind of weird. I was thinking that they'd keep going with it, but
I
I
want
haven't
to
heard anything about it for a while.
I want to research where they landfill that shit and go get me a free one.
Are they still selling it? I think they might be.
Just be like, hey, I'm a pigeon exterminator and I need to see your trash. I have a shovel and I have a dream and I want to know where you dump the stadias. Because I'm going to get me a free Stadia. They should just give that. They should have just given those away, man. They should have just given those away. I mean, I haven't seen.
Never done that.
Well, I remember like right after Christmas, like January, February, they were just pumping those Stadia ads everywhere you looked. And now it's just completely dead silence, dead silence.
Yeah.
So
Kind of funny.
that's, it's the only platform that really didn't gain any traction. Now, the other one that is getting a lot of hell on YouTube is the Amico, the Intellivision Amico, right? Have you seen any of that?
A little bit. It sounds like it's kind of pie in the sky stuff. I don't know.
It's got Tommy Tallarico backing it, and it was delayed. It was delayed yet again. So it's constantly getting delayed, and some of the investors are getting a little bent out of shape and what have you. So let me ask you.
It's going to be obsolete by the time it ever comes out.
Well, it's kind of already obsolete in a way because it's not obsolete because it's a retro system. But supposedly it's going to be another emulator box, right? So what I wonder is like when I see these kind of things when they constantly delay it, I always wonder if it's like feature creep, like you never release because there's always something dropping and you're going, well, can we do that? Can we do that? Can we do that?
Yeah.
And I don't know. So in television, like even the Atari one, the Atari VCS, that actually sold pretty well. A lot of people got that thing. And I'm like, the Atari games are so rudimentary. They're so chunky. It's like, I have no interest in it. And I still have my original Atari and I still have my original games. So I'm like, why would I
literally play Atari games on any platform you have already? So why would you spend $300 for this new Atari machine?
Well, and I think there's even an Atari collection on PS4. And I have an Atari I have an HD Atari collection on Xbox. And I mean, like, what do you want to play? You want to play Combat, or Gunfighter or whatever the Gunslinger they had? I'm like, none of it is that big of a deal. It's just kind of a gimmick. Like nobody, and in television's not much better. It's a little bit better, but it's not much better.
Yeah, I'm the kind of person that you think that stuff would be really popular for because that was literally the first system I ever played was Atari.
Yeah.
And you think I'd have super nostalgia for it and, want to go back and play it. I have no interest in it.
I have none. Well, and the funny thing is that the prices reflect that. I mean, that system came out in like 1979 or some shit. And the cartridges are still like $1 and $2 and $3. Yeah. And do you know the reason that it crashed? The reason it crashed is people are because you had to pay $50 back then. That was back in the '70s money. So $50 in the '70s is like $100 now. You were paying
That's another reason we're in the golden age now because games are so cheap now.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, I got to tell you, one of the things I wanted to bring up just to you is just as a game collector is that I was looking at this guy did a video and he tracks the pricing per game, and we peaked like when everything went crazy was April of this year when PS3 went through the roof, right? But now it's all come down, and in fact I picked up a copy of Drakengard 3 for $30, 30 something. Because that game went up to like that was like going 60, 70, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's at half. And I'm like, well, it's not going to go much cheaper than $30. Dragon Guard 3. I don't think so. So I went and picked up a copy of that. I'm like, holy shit. So, like, if you were looking at some of that crazy, crazy stuff, it has dropped. But it hasn't dropped back to prior to the bump. It
Yeah.
it hasn't gone back to the pre-bump era. And, like, before it was like $28 or $25. Now it's like $35. So you've got kind of that, and that might just be inflation. You got like that kind of that 15% lift over previous year. So
Yeah.
I'm like, but like there are some opportunities where things have come down where I'm like, oh, wow, okay. I'm like Drakengard. I was looking at that a couple months ago and it was like, 60, 70 creeping up. And I'm like, oh, screw that. I like it. I
Now they're
wanted
getting
it.
in your price range again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so that it doesn't hurt, that I'm not like, oh, bro, 79. I'm like,
Yeah,
so, go
I
ahead.
saw Drakengard 2 was, I think it was almost $300 or something at its top, at the top end this year, but it's dropped like $80, $90.
Yeah.
It's like a
Yeah.
big drop since the peak.
Yeah, it's kind of fallen out. The bottom is kind of fallen out. And I'm like, thank God. In a way, as a collector, if you're accumulating, you're like, yay. But if you're holding or selling, you're like, oh well, ooh.
Yeah.
But I was about to go. I'm about to go into a. I keep saying this. I've been saying this for years, but I'm going to be going into a selling period because.
Oh.
Yeah, I really need to start winnowing down some of this shit that I have and focusing more on good stuff. Like I've really been getting into the PS4 collecting of late
Okay.
and Xbox. But PS4 I've been like grabbing up some of these like, what are potentially rare titles. And like I said, now that the bottom's dropped out, you need to start looking at PS4 because that shit is going to start drying up. But when I look at it, I'm like, Jesus Christ, you've got new consoles coming out, you've got the PC scene, you've got the Chinese knockoff you got the Chinese made consoles, you have the Mega Engine just came out, you have all of these little niche consoles, you have all the mobile, it's like I'm like. It's we're living through the peak time of how you want a game, what you want a game, whether it's retro, whether it's horror. It's like anything that you want, and it's like it's just this unlimited ocean of possibilities at this time. So if you're a gamer, like right now, if you're a gamer, it's like the world is falling apart, but you're enjoying the best gaming, and maybe that's the reason. Maybe there's some motivation behind that to keep you looking at your screen versus like, hey, we're dismantling the world and we're going to be restructuring. It's like, don't look over here, ignore our mess and play this. But I've been a gamer. I've always been, that's always been a hobby of mine. So, like I'm thrilled that I can, like, if I ever find out how to get the disc out of this thing, that I could go and do Soul Star on this system with a modern controller. I'm like, I can't wait. I'm going to have so much fun with that thing. It's just like unbelievable. So, I'm sorry about the world and all that stuff, but I'm like really happy. I'm going to do a
How dare you?
How dare you? How
How
dare
dare
you?
you?
How dare you make light of the world? The world's falling apart.
How dare you?
How dare you? How dare you have fun and be a man and play video games?
Terrible things.
I have a terrible carbon footprint. So it's
You looking to kind of get rid of your clutter and just keep your good stuff now?
yeah, well, I kind of well, you know what? I really need to get into a selling mode, and yes, but the really sad part is it won't be a lot of stuff. It won't be a lot of stuff. Well, you know what? I'm thinking of downsizing. You got to remember too. Like well, I'm single. I'm a single. I'm a bachelor. I have a kid who's now going to be 16. I'm putting my mom into a nursing home like starting the first of the month. So I've been taking care of her full time, and it's just getting beyond my ability to do it. And she can't, like, she's like, she goes, you know, she's like, Rob, I need to have somebody around, like a medical person of some kind, 24 hours a day. And she can't even like organize her medication anymore. She's getting a little weird with that now too. And this place I'm sending her to, they organize it and they put it all on a card and they give it to her every day. So there's no fuck ups, you know, that goes, pardon me. But you know, it's like, she sometimes she wakes up, she's disoriented, and you're getting to that. She's almost 80. Like, so you're getting to that point where shit is really slipping. And I can't live over there 24 hours a day. Right. So
you shouldn't have to.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where like you kind of have to make that tough call, you know. So she actually made the call. She's like, this is it's now getting to the point where I can't be alone and you can't be here all the time. So, but the idea is that that's not going to be something I have to contend with on a day to day anymore. And then my kid's going to be, you know, isn't going to be even recognize my face when she's like 16. It's like, who are you? I live here. Anyway, but she's a sweetheart. She's doing really good. But what I'm saying is that like my daughter's growing up, and I'm always going to be there, and she's always welcome wherever I hang my hat. But I'd like to downsize. Like my house isn't even that big, but I take care of all of it. Like I do everything, you know, like, so I mow the grass, I clean the house, I do everything, and I give, and I, you know, raise my daughter and all that stuff like that. And, you know, I don't want to take care of this big house anymore. You know, it's a 4-bedroom, 2-car garage. You know, I love my studio. I've got everything set up really nice. You know, I got everything set up beautiful. But I'm like, I would almost like to like really downsize. But then I'm like, if I downsize, what am I going to do with all these freaking video games? You just went through that. What are you going to do with all that shit? I have like 3,000 video games, man. What the fuck am I going to do with that? Can I just have a moment? What am I going to do with, hold on 1 second. Hold on.
Let's chat. We got Toro in the chat here.
Oh, I don't know if we have any. Oh, is he in the chat?
Yeah.
I must have an old chat open because I don't see anything in the chat. Oh yeah, there it is. I got an old chat open.
Oops.
Thank God you were there. Let's see. Hold on. Let me open this up. Oh, Ty Lord. Hey, video game dorks. Nice. Wuhan handhelds. Yeah, take your chance. Take your chance. It comes with bird flu. All right, let's see. Hi, Fancy. I am at bingo, so I can't talk long. I love Super Duper Gaming World and Pyro Theory. They just pop in and be like, "Hey, I'm undergoing surgery in a couple of minutes. I just wanted to pop in." You know what's really funny? I want to tell you a story. I used to work for Home Shopping Network, and I took an entry-level position with them. And they had me monitoring phone calls to make sure like the representatives were doing the right shit. So I'm sitting here listening to a call, and there's one of the sales reps is taking this order for a ring. And the lady's like, because some of these ladies are like hooked on this shit like heroin. So we had like some kind of, I think it was some kind of amethyst ring. Oh, and those show hosts, they're like freaking hypnotists. But she's like, "Hello, dear. I really need to place an order for that ring. My doctor is bothering me. I have to go into surgery, but I don't want to miss out on that ring." And I know, and she's yelling at the doctor. The doctor's like, "Can you please get off the phone? We have we have to get you to anesthesia." And she's like, "Yes, yeah, I understand. I want this ring." I'm like, and she got that order too. She got that. She's like, "You just leave me alone. I'm buying this ring. This is the ring. I want that ring." And we got it for her, and they did it perfect. And I was just on the grounds. laying on the floor. And I went out and we were able to give recognition to the people that did a good job. And I'm like, that was amazing. I can't believe I got to listen to somebody like do surgery, ready to go into surgery, and they're trying to ply the ring while they're being wheeled out in the freaking gurney. It's like, oh my God, bro, it's freaking hilarious, man. So
I wonder if she got the ring later and then totally forgot.
Yeah, did she live? What's the other side of the story? Yeah, what's the ending of that story? Did she live? She died on the table? I would think
probably forgot even ordering it if she got it right before she went under.
Yeah, you never know. Let's say she died on the table and then she gets the ring and they just like put it on at the funeral. Just,
oh man,
there you go. You got that order, baby. So yeah. So anyway, but yeah, I want to get a live tally. Let me get the live tally of what I got going on here.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're gonna look.
I was going to do a live tally on total number of games. 2,693.
I thought you got more than that.
No.
That's
no. It is a lot. It is a lot. It's crazy. I wall mounted a shelf from IKEA, and it's like their lighter version of a shelf. Like I usually have these like really big heavy ones from them. And they have a lighter version. I'm like, ooh, it's lighter. I can like wall mount it, right? So I wall mounted this thing. I loaded it completely up. I mean, there's not a square millimeter that wasn't have games on it. And it literally, even though I have it bolted to the wall onto the studs, it just literally just started to like collapse in on itself. Like it literally just started to give up on the seals of the wood and stuff.
Oh yeah.
It was just so freaking heavy. And I have to go get the heavier one, the replacement that just kind of sits on the floor. I'll put some feet on it or something. But I'm like, holy shit, bro. What am I going to do with all this stuff? Even if I wanted to downsize, like I was thinking about living on like a sailboat, like really downsize and live on a sailboat. Wow. Like a good sailboat, like a 50-foot sailboat or a 40-foot sailboat, like a nice one. And then just do that. I mean, think about that though, bro. If you live on the boat, you live in a decent marina, most of these really nicer sailboats, they have their own, like I was looking at one that had like, 4 bedrooms, and each bedroom had its own bathroom. Really nice. Really nice. And, so it had, it already had a flat panel TV in there, and it had like a little salon area you could hang out. And I'm like, oh man, that sounds nice to me, just like living on a fucking marina, and the world burns down, you could just go sail off with your storable food, just go find some island and plant food, and just live off your dried beans for a year, and or whatever. That's what I've been thinking about. Either that, or I'm going to stay here and I'm going to get like solar and have a well drilled and plant crops and
fallout shelter.
Do something, man. I'm like, I don't know, man. Things are getting so freaking strange. I'm like, good God, man. Of course, yeah. I was thinking of moving to Thailand too. I was thinking of going to Thailand, but that's freaking wrecked. That's freaking wrecked now.
Riots over there right now.
Yeah. Well, that's because they won't let people work. They won't let people do anything. It's complete. See, that's the problem when you live in a kingdom. Like, there's nowhere to go. Like, they have courts and shit, but they're not going to overrule the king. I mean, the king. If the king does the order, then that's it. It's just the king. The king says, and it's an edict, and there's nothing much you can do. I personally think they want to chase out, like, all of the expats are starting to flee Thailand. I think they wanted to do that. I think there's a lot of like British, Australian, and American guys over there, like living cheap and just drunk, and and they're scum. They're whoring, and they're just the working class scumbags of the Western world went over there. No offense.
Yeah. I saw a lot of those guys when I was there.
Yeah. You know what I said? They were like expat zombies. Because like when I went over there a couple years ago, it's now 3 years. And the year after I go over there, this shit blows up. And I'm like, I had a plan in place, man. I'm like, okay, you know, but you never know. Things might get better. But I think they're trying to chase out, they're hurting their own people while they're doing it. But I think they're trying to chase out all of the low class expats. I think they want everybody to go. Like, there's this one guy who does, like, he's like retired working for you. And all of a sudden, like, his last video was like, well, I'm leaving Thailand. He's had this channel that he's built up for years. And he would go to like different condos and apartments and say, oh, it's, you know, this is how much it is to live here. And you can, you know, this is what you have to, you know, he did like, if you wanted to move to Thailand videos. And then all of a sudden his latest video was like, after they really clamped down just recently, they put another lockdown, and a really severe one. And he's like, well, I'm going back to Canada. He's going back to Canada. I'm like,
It's not worth it anymore.
yeah, I'm like, well, what are you going to talk about? Well, we're still under lockdown again, you know? So I feel really bad. But it's like, I personally think the government is like, okay, we locked down once and this percentage of expats left, and we locked down again and this percentage left. We're just going to lock it all the way down and get rid of the rest of the old drunks. Because I got to.
That would be a reason.
Yeah. Well, I just think I think it's a happy outcome for them. I don't know if that's the singular reason, but I think they might. Well, I would be like I say, if you had a big group of people living in your country that weren't exactly citizens, that were just kind of like, you know, drunk and, you know, just. You know what I mean? You saw him when you were over there. I saw him too. I would always see these like hollow-eyed dudes that were like 40, 50 years old, nursing one beer and just like this is all I can afford right now is this one beer. Like, they've blown their money, and you know, you could tell they're like broke down, and they you know, they just look lost. Yeah, but you heard about the mile, or you've heard about, what is it called? Is it the flying club, or is it it's like jumping without a parachute club or something over there?
What?
Yeah, they have this thing. It's like the flying Pattaya club, or the flying Bangkok club, or I forget what they call it, but there's this one hotel especially that these guys like jump off. They run out of money, or they get cheated by a local girl, and they just jump off a roof. It's like the Mile High Club, only not fun. Yeah, it's like, yeah, they have a whole club over there of guys that just like run out of money, run out of luck, and get rolled by some scam or something like that, and they wind up just jumping off a building. And I'm like, yeah, you got to watch out for that, man. Too much of anything is bad for you. So it's like, yeah, maybe it was a happy thing. Maybe it was a happy thing my plan never reached fruition.
It was destiny that you didn't go to Thailand right now.
See, I always look at it like that. I always look at it like, when bad things happen, I always think it's taking the place of some other bad thing that's worse. You know, like if I get stuck in traffic, I'm like, well, this is slowing me down so I don't have an accident in the future. You know what I mean? That's my philosophy. That's kind of like how I think about stuff. And I'm like, okay, maybe the entire world locked down so I wouldn't have to go to Pattaya and jump off a building. If
I had to move out of the country right now, I don't even really know where I'd go, because this tyranny is just taking the world. Every government's doing it. Just tyranny is on the rise. The governments are abusing their people left and right.
It's really scary. It's really scary.
Yeah. And I feel lucky that I live here now where I do. People around me just like, fuck it. You know, I don't care about what's going on.
Yeah.
They try to live their normal lives.
Yeah. Well, you know, I saw a really funny theme, or a really funny meme. And it was a picture of like people at like a party, just normal, you know, and it said like, I've come down with the freedom variant, and it makes me ignore my government.
I like that.
And I'm like, I don't understand why everybody takes these people seriously anyway. Again, we've never, typically American people, that's one thing that's good about how crazy America is. It's crazy good in a sense that a lot of people are just like, I don't give, who cares what you say. It's like, why, I feel like we're in the longest elementary school ever. Like it's all the busybodies have taken over. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying? Like all the Karens, it's like the age of Karen. It's like everybody's taken over, and everybody. This is the thing. I'm not going to say I agree or disagree with anything, but what I am going to say is like, what is it your business? What I do? See, that's where you get into. There is no good excuse to tell me what I have to do in my day-to-day life. Like, you shouldn't be telling me where I can go and where I can't go. Unless I'm a criminal. Then detain me and charge me and let me fight it in court. But unless I'm a criminal, don't be telling me what I have to put on my face. Don't tell me what I have to inject in my body. Don't tell me where I have to go and I don't go. I'm free to move. There's still a Constitution. And, again, there's been so many violations of the Constitution. Like, where does the government tell you you're not allowed to operate your business? I mean, it's just like, I'm like, where did that happen? I'm like, excuse me? Like what? Because I used to run I've run multiple small businesses. So I'm paying rent. I have a contract. I'm licensed with the state. And you're telling me I'm not allowed to run my business? I'm not allowed to open my business. Who are you to tell me that? It's like
people who do try to keep their businesses open, and the government will just have the police come in on them.
Go ahead. Then you're violating my constitutional rights, and then we have to fight it out in court. See, that's the other thing too. Is like I watched this one show about the guy was talking about like protests in the streets don't do anything. Like people laugh at that. Like the powerful folk laugh at that. And I'm like, yeah, you have to take him to court. And a lot of people don't want to mess with that. It's scary. You almost, depending upon your case, it's very expensive. They can, again, trying to sue a government is very nuts, but you can get together like a class action. See, that's where I wouldn't understand where business is. Like if you're in a strip mall or if you're part of a business association, you need to get together as a group and class action sue. And that's when things change. You can go walk in the street and have your angry signs and, all that. All they're going to do is if you get out of hand, they're going to bust your heads and incarcerate you. And they're going to delegitimize you. But what you need to do is you need to get serious. You need to get together in your communities and your businesses. You see, I got to tell you, and this is probably going to get me freaking banned off everything. But my advice would be, like, I owned a pet store. I would go to every single pet store in the county, physically go, talk to the owners and say, let's retain an attorney, let's pool our money, let's retain an attorney, and let's sue the state or let's sue the federal government or let's sue whoever we need to sue so that we can operate our businesses. Because if you don't do that, if you try to go it alone, if you're like one man against the world, you're going to be crushed. You're going to be crushed. But as a group, you can generate, and especially with social media, you can generate some buzz. You can get some news going. You might get some coverage of the trial or the class action. You might actually, and again, sometimes they'll back off if they're like, okay, this is getting out. There's too many people are involved. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's really what you have to do. You can't be this one man situation or one person situation. You literally need to go to everybody around your community and go, hey, I'm not happy about this. Let's get a lawyer and let's sue. And then you can even have emergency injunctions. You can say, this is impacting my livelihood. I need an emergency injunction until this is decided for a year or 6 months or whatever the judge is willing to give you. So there's a lot of legal options that, like, I see a lot of people like protests and I'm like, well, yay. That doesn't that doesn't really cut ice for anybody. That doesn't really, So, you don't want to incite, you don't want to, incur potential arrest. You don't want to do violence or anything like that, but you just want to get smart. You want to get legal. And you're like, well, that's expensive. Well, not having a business is expensive. So, yeah, I mean, if it's like, you're like, well, that's going to eat into my profits. Yeah, it is. It's like, go get yourself a guild, like a guild of professionals, and go up against them legally. Go up against it legally, because that's exactly what I would do. I would go, and again, a lot of times even competitors will put their feelings aside and their motivations aside for the greater good, for the greater good. Now, I live in a state where they just basically said, we're not dealing with all that. It's really funny. You know what I noticed? About the two biggest states that told the Fed to kind of go hang was Florida and Texas. Both Florida and Texas generate more money than they take from the federal government. They don't have the Fed doesn't have the leverage it has over Texas and Florida, because Florida is in the black. It runs in the black. It pays more out than it gets from the Fed. And the Florida is the same way. And those two states have been the primary states that have said, we're going to kind of go our own way. And I'm like, the reason is that they're not dependent upon federal money. This is what a lot of people don't realize about the United States. Most states run in the red. Most states are bailed out on the regular by the federal government.
Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah, so it's like, it's if they are depending upon whether or not you have enough food to feed your people or enough, this or that, they've got a lot of leverage over you, man. They can cut those funds off and you're screwed. You got to go back to your people and go, well, oh, that's brutal. Let's see. Can you get together and fancy action now? Tyler is probably saying, why don't you talk about video games? So
yeah, it's kind of nice to turn on YouTube and watch some video game talk instead of just, oh, the world's horrible going.
Yeah, man. I'm listening to the Quartering and Review Tech USA, and I'm like, dude, the world is burning down around us. Shut up. I mean, grow the fuck up. You guys are grown men. Poor Rich he looks like hell too. He's like pasty, and ever since he lost all that weight, he just looks, I don't know, like really chubby people, they lose all the weight and they look strange. I don't know what it is.
Sickly.
Yeah, I'm like, you look a little strange, bro. And he looked like really pale and really jacked up. And I'm like, bro, if you're going, I don't know what state he lives in either. Depends on the state he lives in. If you have to go through the family court with your kid, and now your wife is left or divorcing you, your kids, now you're going through family court. He's got multiple kids with her. She's gonna wreck you, bro. You are wrecked. And I think like what the Quartering is trying to say, which I think he kind of has a point, is the guy needs a target. Because you can't get mad at the female and the court system, because they'll just tell you, well, you're going to jail, or you're not going to get to see your kid, or you know how it goes. It's brutal. Well, you don't, not really. You haven't lived it. I've lived it, and it's it's pretty brutal, man. And I'm in Florida, and it's actually pretty kind-hearted, comparatively speaking. It's still freaking brutal, man. And if you show your temper at all, it's like, okay, psych eval, you've got an anger management class to go to. You know what I mean? It's like you got to be careful, man. So it's like, what he's going through is like brutal. And I think what the Quartering is trying to say is like, hey, I know that you're going through this bad time. I know that you're using me as a punching bag right now. But you need to tone it down. They both need to just grow up and give it up. I can't. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know why these people get in internet feuds. It's really retarded.
Sometimes I wonder if it's not by design, because it creates a lot of views. You know.
Some of it is probably, yeah. Especially with these bigger YouTubers.
Yeah, some of the Phil DeFranco and some of the other guys that I noticed, like DSP and H3H3. He's always getting into something with somebody. And I'm like,
yeah, okay.
whenever your subscriber count starts to dip and your engagement starts to dip, all of a sudden there's just like this online feud war between people, you know, and I'm like,
Yeah.
give me a freaking break, man. I don't know. I don't know what to say
I
about
think the
that.
fans like it because the fans think it's like, oh, my team against your team, so it's like a
Yeah.
game to them. You know?
Well, Quartering's video was like, we share subscribers, and he goes, I want to apologize to the shared subscribers because most of you guys don't enjoy, because you watch both of us and you enjoy both our channels, and now you feel like you have to pick sides. And I'm like, I don't have to pick sides. I'm subscribed to both of you guys, and you guys can be as asinine as you want to be. Go right ahead. I think it's stupid. You both need to grow up. And again, quartering kind of fed the fire. This is one of the things where he's like, I wasn't going to make a video. I was just going to ignore it. But this guy pissed me off now, and he went too far.
Yeah.
Now I got to make a response
Just
video.
ignore it.
Well, you know what? And I'm like, well, I think what the quartering's like is, if this guy's going to profiteer off this situation, that I will too. And, you know, it just escalates from there. But, you know, it'll peter out. It's kind of ridiculous. I think Rich, I can tell, I can look at Rich right now and I'm like, man, you don't even look healthy, bro. You look like this pale, pasty dude who's like unhealthy pale. You know, it looks like he isn't sleeping. You know, I'm like, you look like hell. And then you're going into a flame war with the quartering.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, why would you even bother? Why don't you just make your content? You know, talk about a train wreck. Well, it's not really a train wreck. I think he's trying to pull himself out of it as Jim Sterling. I was like, Jim's channel. I'm like, dude, I think I even commented. I'm like, and I commented in a good way. Like, he did a video that was like in his wheelhouse finally. And he got away from the politics and the economics and the Boglins and the wrestling and all the rest of it. And I'm like, okay, you're back to form. Good. Because that's what people tune into you for. That's
Is Jim Sterling the guy that's like a girl now?
He's trans. Yeah. He's a trans female.
Okay,
yeah. Jim Stephanie Sterling. Yeah. Which again, I don't care about that. That's not a big deal to me, but it's, you know, none of that shit is a big deal to me in my life. Like, I don't care who sleeps with who. I don't care what gender you want to be. I'm like a libertarian as far as that stuff goes. Like do whatever you want to do, bro. Like, you know, the way I go back to it as far as like that kind of thing. If I wake up one day and I want to do something whack, or I want to do something unusual, or I want to live a certain lifestyle, and I'm not hurting anybody and I'm obeying the law and, you know, I'm paying my bills and all that, I don't want somebody telling me what I can and can't do. I'm like that. Like, I don't want you, if I pay my bills and I pay my house tax and I do take care of my family and I do what I'm supposed to do in this world, I don't want somebody telling me how I'm going to live my life in my private time. Like I don't think it's anybody's business. So like, you know, like that's not my lifestyle, but I don't want to wake up and say, well, you can't because this, you know, and I'm like, that's not even my business. Like, if you want to do that,
most people really care about that stuff now, unless, you know, the person's
yeah,
molesting children or something.
Yeah. If you're committing crimes, right. Like if you're committing crimes, then you need to deal with those crimes. Like, I think it was Chris Chan, wasn't it Chris Chan? Chris Chan just got busted for pedophilia or something like that. And I'm like,
look, he's having sex with his mom.
Oh, that's bizarre, bro. That situation is bizarre. He does a lot of bizarre shit. But until you commit crimes, I'm not going to be the guy that's going to be like, well, you shouldn't do that because that's against the norm. I'm like, I don't care about that. People have been telling me like, get in line, and you know, like we go. Yeah, we go to school. We go to school for 12 years, and it's like, you eat lunch here. You eat what we tell you. You get in line. You go to bathroom when we say so. You need to do this assignment. And again, it's like, dude, excuse me. I could not wait. Now I've gone on to have a master's degree. I've gone on to own multiple businesses. I've gone on to climb the corporate ladder to quite a high level. And I quit high school. I quit. I couldn't wait to quit high school. And then I went and worked full time. I went and worked full time and then wound up taking over that business, you know? And I can't tell you in the 2 years that I went to high school what I got out of that, except the girls that I was, dating. It was a great place to meet girls because I had a car and I had a job, and I dated girls in high school. That's what I would do. And I would skip school and go to McDonald's and get French fries. But it's like, you know what I mean? High school to me was a freaking joke. And I'm like, even so, like when I quit, they pulled me in and they're like, "Are you sure you want to quit, Rob?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm dead sure. I have a job, and I already talked to my boss, and he says if I want to quit and work full time, he's good with that. And he's opening up a second location, and he's gonna pay me to help set it up." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go be an adult. Thanks." But he goes, "Your grades are pretty good." I'm like, "I never show up. I'm like almost never here, dude. I skip most of my classes." "Yeah, but you got like a B average." "Yeah." I go, "Dude, I've got a B average. I'm never here." Like I skip. He's like, "Well, you got to be in social studies." I'm like, "Dude, I skipped that class 9 times out of 10. I'm going to go to McDonald's."
But Toro, it's time to stop collecting games and grow up now.
Yeah, is it? Yeah, but this is what I want to do. It's like I've been very successful in this world by kind of going my own way. And I'm like, that used to be America. That used to be America is you did your own thing. I love that. Well, I don't know. It hasn't changed 100%, but there's this big, state schools and, go to college and get student loan debt and I watched this really funny video about most jobs are useless. And it was just this office jobs. You're just sitting at a desk. You're staring at a computer. You're pushing papers around. You don't really do anything. And, and I'm like, oh, this is so brutal, man. This is so brutal. But speaking of video games, so let me try to steer us back on course here, man. So like
golden age of games.
Well, the golden age of gaming. I mean, you kind of agree with the fact that it's penetrated into the mainstream so deep. It is the mainstream now. So I'm like, even what I noticed kind of fell off the cliff was VR.
I think they're still doing it though, aren't they?
Oh yeah, like
kind of slowly progressing with VR.
Well, PlayStation, they're supposed to come out with the Mach 2 or the Verve V2 PlayStation, which is going to be a much smaller, less intrusive headset. But Apple's coming out with Apple Glass now too, so that's going to be an enhanced reality pair of glasses where you're going to have your phone icons on your glasses.
Right.
Yeah. Have you seen that?
No, but I kind of see that it's kind of the golden age of gaming as far as like what you can put on a TV screen. I think it's really not going to progress until we have like some huge jump in technology.
Yeah. You know what I keep
something like a holodeck on the Enterprise.
Yeah. I keep envisioning that. Like if you have like a small, and they already have systems that are like this. Like it's like for the ultra rich, they have systems where it's like a tube of televisions, and you have a small treadmill on the ground.
Oh, those things, yeah.
So you can literally take a virtual walk in anywhere you want. And then, but think about that. Think about if you could walk on a treadmill surrounded by screens with like a peripheral gun, and that's doom right there. I mean,
that's getting there, right?
Yeah,
that's the next step.
At some point in time, your house is going to come with a gaming tube. You're going to be able to like step in there, and it's going to go, and you're going to be in the zone. You're going to be in there. Have you ever
seen the Sword Art Online animes?
No.
They use VR. They just put on these goggles, and it like basically puts them into a sleep state. But it'll link up with their brain, and they'll be like in reality, in the virtual reality, but in actual reality, they're just like on a bed sleeping.
It's actually in their unconscious reality, but it's a shared reality. It's like it's a shared delusion. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
But that's getting kind of scary when you're actually having technology like put you to sleep and be in your brain like that.
Well, that's the really next level. That's the really next
Yeah.
level. Like when you have like an SD slot in the back of your neck, and that's your
Oh, there you
game.
go.
That's your game. You just put that back of your neck, and you're like, click. Okay.
When you're a robot.
Yeah. Well, you got to think with something like Google Glass or Apple Glass, if it's an enhanced reality game, you literally can be in reality and just have the glasses project on your environment. Think about that. What if you could alter the environment in real time, just having layers? See, we're good at that. We're good at layering over reality. Like even with OBS is layers. Adobe is layers. You're going to be able to take that kind of layering and put it into glasses, and so you can just be walking down the street in your own town or your own neighborhood and have a zombie adventure with your finger
Yeah.
gun, and they'll poke out of a real tree and you'll be like, boom. Think
That's
about
what
that.
Pokemon Go was doing, right?
Yeah, it's enhanced reality. You're going to be able to do that. I think that's really the next big leap is you're going to have a pair of glasses that's going to be, again, that's kind of crazy, is Wi-Fi enabled, and you're going to be able to your neighborhood becomes the game.
Yeah.
That is going to be something. That'd be really
That
cool.
might be the next big thing. You never know.
Well,
We've been trying these virtual reality things forever, but
Yeah.
they just kill your eyes. So
No, yeah, it's you got to
use
do
them a
you
lot.
got to do enhanced reality, because again, you're always going to wind up with that disorientation, because what it is that your brain is always trying to process the real environment. Your brain's always I think what it is that your brain is telling your balance that this isn't real. Like, it's not real. Like your body knows on the medulla. It's not like up here, but it's like back in your medulla, your fight or your flight. It's like, this isn't real. So I don't know. I don't know how to do to work with my body's balance, and it makes you sick. It makes you sick
Yeah.
because your brain keeps fighting the two-dimensional. See, again, we're designed to work in a three-dimensional reality, and it's still two-dimensional when it's right up here and that you can't see anything else. Even when you're playing a video game, peripherally you're seeing three dimensions. So it's like, I think that you're never really going to get past that unless you go to something where it's projected onto the reality so that you can experience that. I think that's the way around it. Of the
I
headset
think
thing.
the headsets might work. I think if you had like a really really high resolution, but I don't know. The ones they have now, the resolution's just not high enough to work.
I don't know. I still have never dropped any bank on VR anything. And I've kind of think am I missing the boat? And I'm like, I don't think so. I still don't want anything on my face like that. I would just rather, I can play light gun stuff and that's fine for me. To me, that's like as virtual as I want to get, is just have a light gun and do it like that. So yeah, I think because of all the money that's flowing into the industry, we're the number one entertainment media in the world, that you're going to see even more wild shit happen, where the money is going to go into the development, and it's going to get even cooler. It's going to get even cooler. I don't know how much better it can get, because now we're starting to, gamers like you,
Diminish.
well, gamers like you and me, like, we remember the Atari, right? But now you're leaving those generations behind. So it's like, the 360 is an old system to a lot of people, the younger generation.
Yeah, it is.
They're like, yeah, well, wasn't that on the Xbox 300? Or, it's like, yeah, I was like, oh, bro. So it's there's a lot of young folks coming up. It's like, oh my God, man. So yeah, I'm like, I still love to collect. I still, I just bought Drakengard 3. I saw the price drop. I'm like, give it to me. I'm still collecting PS3 whenever I can. I've been trying to sneak in some of the PS3 games. I mean, I want to get a copy of No More Heroes. I don't have a copy of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really want to get a copy of that. And I need to get a copy of Catherine. I don't have a copy of Catherine. I was looking like the Catherine No More Love Collector's Edition is like hundred and a quarter.
Oh goodness.
Yeah. Oh, there's so much stuff on the PS4, the PS3 that I'm interested in collecting. And it's like there's so much cool shit. Like I still want to collect, but
Yeah.
it's at some point in time it's going to be like an anchor around my neck with all these freaking games.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what if
I think your issue is that you just buy everything, and I think you really need to start discerning, like, okay, is this going to be something I'm actually going to play in the future,
Yeah.
or is it just going to be cluttering up the house?
Yes. Yeah, I am kind of getting around to that. But then I think about like the Wii collection. If I ever started really dumping, I'm like, see, this is where my thought pattern goes. Let me ask you this question, because I would probably call you and ask you this privately anyway.
Okay.
And give me some advice. You could be like my gaming collecting anonymous sponsor. So like I have the original Xbox collection. I have the Wii collection. I have the PS2 collection. I have the PS3 collection. I have the PS4 collection and the Xbox collection. I have my Genesis collection. I have my PS1 collection, my Dreamcast collection. So the GameCube, those are smaller collections though. But the big collections, the one where I have a lot of SKUs, is Wii, Xbox, PS2, and PS4 is really creeped up there. But it's Wii, Xbox, PS2, PS3. So like, what collection? I was thinking is like, which collection should I pick out? Like, see, you know what I think I should do is I was thinking like, what would my approach be? Should I just sell one collection for getting some of this plastic out of my house? So it's like, the Wii collection, I barely play the Wii. I like collecting for the Wii, but like, I'm like, am I going to invest any more money in collectible games for the Wii when I don't play the system? I don't like the control. Like, I want to plug a controller in and just go. I don't want to, do I have batteries? And is it like hanky? And it's like, it's kind of a pain in the ass. I like the Wii though. I own like 3 of them. I have like 3 Wii consoles.
Yeah.
So the Wii would probably, although I have a soft spot for it, but should I like go to each collection where I have this huge collection of titles? Like I got to tell you, I love my PS3 collection and I love my original Xbox collection. And I really love my PS2 collection too.
I love them all.
Yeah, so I'm like, where do I turn? Like, if somebody had a gun to my head and said, you got to pick a collection, I'd probably pick PS3 or the 360 or the 360. Like, I love that generation. Like, that whole generation of gaming is fantastic. And
that's one of my best gaming experiences on those systems.
Yeah, well, that's that was our heyday, in a way. That was the heyday of gaming. Like, that's when gaming really blew up. And I'm like, I still have like so many memories of more than any other gaming system. Like, I have memories about Resident Evil, like the original Resident Evil on PS1. Like, that was a big deal. That got me kind of back into gaming and such. But it was really like the 360 and the PS3 era. I mean, probably if you put a gun to my head and I had to get rid of collections, I would keep my Genesis collection because it's nostalgic. There's still a lot of good gaming in that collection too. And the 360 and the PS3. And then get rid of the PS2, although I just bought like all the Fatal Frames.
You're asking like if you got rid of a whole collection, what would you get rid of? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I think I'm just trying to work through my fucking mindset on this whole thing. I would say, like, if I wanted to get rid of one collection right now, it would probably be PS1 because it's not that big, and I only got a few really good rares in it too, like Alundra, um, and the Wii. I would probably get rid of the Wii and PS1. That would be the first to go. And if you had a gun to my head, I would probably say I want to keep my Genesis games. Don't ask me why. They just I've gone through so much with those Genesis games. Like I had a condo, then I had an apartment, and then I had another apartment, and you know I and in my house. And those Sega Genesis titles have traveled with me forever. And they're kind of clunky. They're like VHS tapes, man. But like I really have nostalgia for my Sega Genesis collection. It's also my most valuable, like pound for pound is the most valuable collection because there's so many games in there are like worth $600 and $700 or $200 and $300. And
oh yeah,
yeah, they're like there's a
gold there.
Yeah, there's like it's a very collectible collection. So but now. Or I could take the approach of 50 games from each collection.
Well,
that would really cut things down.
Let me give you my advice, but first I just want to let you know I just got a message in my ear saying my battery's almost dead.
So it's been long. We're gonna pop off. So go ahead, give me your advice.
So my advice was just go through each system and look at each individual title and say, do I really want this game or do I not want this game? I wouldn't worry about getting rid of like a whole collection, like your Wii, for instance. Like you don't have to get rid of every single game you got for the Wii.
Just all the Barbies.
Yeah, get rid of your Barbies and just keep the games.
I don't want to get rid of my Barbies, Philberto. Not my Barbies.
I know I gave some of those to you, so you got.
I'm gonna ship you all the Barbies back. You know how close I've been to shipping all my Barbie games to you? Every time I think about this, about lowering my game count, I'm like, I'm gonna ship all my Barbie games to Phil.
Philberto Hogan.
If you do that, I'll make a video blowing them up or shooting them or something.
Just melt them. Just put them outside. Melt them.
Oh, yeah.
All right, man. Well, this is a fun stream. We covered a lot of crazy shit. And we covered like current events and political discourse and the quartering and the whole mess. I think this is probably going to be the best production. We really spent a lot of time getting our production in line. So it's probably the best produced video we've ever done. So I'm anxious to watch it back. So any
you guys watching enjoyed it.
Any final thoughts before we roll out?
I'm glad the summer's almost over. I'm gonna be out collecting some games again.
Thank God. All right, buddy.